We're gonna work on our Simply Adore You layout, and we're gonna do a lot of different techniques on this one, but partly what we're doing is showing you how to replace paper with gilding polish. And then for this one also, we're showing you how to create your own pattern paper. So on this layout, some of the things that you're going to need is going to be the Tim Holtz template, set 39, bubble wrap, palette knife, splatter brush, couple of the sponges, our palette, our shot glass with the dauber, and then we need the opalescent olive matte chalk, sea green kiss, and then citrus green gilding polish. So once you have all those out, go ahead and cut the paper like it says on the blueprint using the solid patterns. So we've got 3 different colors of green here, and we're using the 1/2 inch strips, the 2x4 shards, and the 2x6 shards. The blue on here, the 1x12, is going to be done with the bubble wrap, and that's the first thing that we're going to actually do. So I'm going to set all these pieces aside. Now I chose to use bubble wrap, but you actually could use anything that has some sort of texture or design to it, even like a plastic bag, you know, to give it that kind of look too. So I'm just going to grab out my scissors. I'm going to get my big ones, which I do not normally use, and I'm going to open this up so I get 12 inches. There we go. So now I've got a nice long piece that I'm going to cut 12 inches by 1 inch. And this ruler is 12 inches. This does not need to be perfect. And you could try cutting it on your trimmer, but it's kind of hard. And now I'm just going to move this over because this is actually an 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches. So I'm just going to get it to 1 inch and just cut it as close to the size. And once I get one started, I can just do it this way. All right, perfect. So I've got my 1x12 strip, and no, it's not perfect, but that's okay. It doesn't need to be. And what I'm going to start with is by painting the side that has the circles with my, this one is going to be with the, with the sea green kiss. Or no, it's not. I'm so sorry. It's going to be with the citrus green gilding polish. So I'm going to grab out the citrus green gilding polish, get a piece of scrap paper, make sure I have the bubbles up, which seems like it's both sides. Hard to tell on this one. We'll see what happens when I do this, because it is hard to tell which side is which. Or can I open this up? I had an envelope the last time I did it, but nah, I can feel them. So let's grab our sponge, our palette knife, and go ahead and load this up. And then you're just going to paint this strip. And now I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on my paper and then press it down. And then I have like those fun circles. So if you use a lot, it gets a little messy. So make sure you're not using too much. And I'm going to start again and do exactly the same thing. And I'm going to make an X, so I'm going to do it in the opposite direction. Just like that, and then pull it up. That's great. Let's get rid of this before it gets on something. And now from there, I've got one layer of my paper taken up with that pattern. So that is the blue right here. That's the 1x12. And now I'm gonna do the patterns on these pieces here. So set this page aside and use your scrap piece of paper. I like to glue them down. So that's what I'm gonna do, is just glue them down a little bit. I need a longer piece of paper, but I don't have it at the moment, so we're just gonna work with what we got. And we'll put these right next to each other. Now, why am I gluing these down? Because I'm gonna be doing a pattern on them, and I don't want them to move or to have to hold them down when I do it. There we go. Just like that. And if I put them close together like that, I did ink these too, if you can tell. Put them close together like that, the template will cover up more space. But I am running out of room. So let's just see how many we can get on here. Toot, toot, toot. And here is this. All right, perfect. So now that we have that, we have some different techniques going on. We have splatter, we have texture, so on and so forth. So if we look at our page, the darker green, which is the longer ones, are going to be splattered. So that's this. So I'm going to do that last, and I'll probably peel these up. I don't want to get the splatter on everything. These right here are the diamond templates. So maybe I'll move these two for a second until I do that part, and then I'll put them back. So for the diamond template, we're going to pull this out, and right there is the diamond. That's going to be the sea green kiss. So we're going to grab a new sponge. Clean off your palette knife if you didn't do it already. Load it up. Now, because we're doing like a bit of a texture, I actually put it on a little bit thicker than I would if I was doing chipboard, because I'm just dabbing just like that. And when I don't see much coming off, I'm going to load it up again. Now, the important thing with this is to not move that template as you're doing a section. All right, and that's the whole section. So now I'm just gonna peel that up and see I have these really cool, fun diamonds. So I'm gonna use I turned the template around and I'm lining it up with the small diamonds. And I'm gonna start that process again. Now, the more material you put on, the thicker they'll be. But too much material and you'll have another headache. So just a little bit in between. There's that. I'm going to line up those small diamonds again. Oh, it just shifted on me. There we go. Go ahead and pick the template up, and then that is it. Now with these, they're going to need a second to dry just because I have it on there pretty heavy, but I still can pick them up and set them aside. Just take it off the adhesive, and you can see how I've got that really fun pattern with the Tim Holtz template. There we go. We'll set that one aside. And we'll start the next template on here. Now in the next template, we're going to be using the opalescent chalk. Now, if you're taking a while to do this, make sure you clean up all your sponges and things like that. You do not want them to dry, but we're moving along pretty fast. Add water to them if you're done with them, but always wait until you're done. So here's the chalk. Chalk is really runny. It never, ever, hardly ever needs more water, and I'm using the circle template. So I'm just making sure I'm kind of covering most of it. I could do one at a time, but honestly, I'm not worried about it. And I need a new sponge. So I've got one here. I'm gonna layer that up. Oop, don't get it on anything. And I'm not really leaving a ton on this one. I'm kind of wiping it off. When the color starts to fade, grab more gilding polish on your sponge. Now my sponge is kind of wet, so that's why it is kind of leaving those marks, but it's not, as long as it has the texture, I am pretty good with it. Let me just see if this one's drier. Nope, it's not. Let me get a dry one so you can kind of see. Okay, let's load up a new one. And then that should be a lot cleaner looking. And it is. So try to remember when you're doing this kind of thing not to use a wet sponge, because if you do, it will show. It gets very messy. But with this type of thing, I'm not really worried about it. Oops, because it's just for a layered effect. I'm gonna put that template back on there, go across, and then I've got my cute little polka dots that I was looking for a pattern. Let that dry, and now we're gonna do the splatter. So the splatter is done with the chalk. So we're just gonna grab a little bit, we don't need much, and put it in there. Much less, like a half a dime size there. Chalk is runnier, so we're gonna start with one dropper. Use your fan brush to mix it up. Picking up a little bit of that yellow, but you should wash your palette right away. And when I'm doing these demos, it's just not something that happens. I need to run it through the dishwasher. And then how about a nice big splatter? All right, there's that. We're gonna let those set up and dry. And once they dry, then we'll start gluing it all down and back together in place as where it shows on our blueprint. So here's our blueprint. Once those are good, we'll go back and put the strips on, the orange shards, and then the pink ones.